Could you become liberated at the end of this lifetime? In getting started in discussing this, I'm going to rely specifically on what Paramahansa Yogananda himself has said about this subject, as well as rely on what two prominent Self-Realization Fellowship monks have told us about this subject too. In addition, if you're a Self-Realization Fellowship practitioner, you probably already understand the subject of liberation. But for anyone listening who may not understand what I'm talking about here, let me say the following. The idea of liberation derives from the concept of reincarnation and the idea that we are reincarnated over and over again and are born again into new bodies to live new lifetimes. The idea here is that when we reach a certain level of spiritual development and closeness with God, and we've let go of our attachments to living life here on earth, we will no longer need to reincarnate again into another life and into another body, and we will then move on to what is next with God's plan for us in the spiritual realm. Accelerating this process towards liberation is something that Self-Realization Fellowship practitioners are taught specific techniques and meditations to help them to accomplish this. And let me now get into what Yogananda himself has said about the length of time that this process of attaining liberation will take for us. I'm referring specifically here to what Yogananda has said within his book titled God Talks with Arjuna in verse 3 of chapter 7, and that chapter is titled The Nature of Spirit and the Spirit of Nature. In addition, in the 2-volume hardcover version of the book, what I'm going to read to you right now begins on page 667 within the 2nd volume of the book. Yoga Avatar Lahiri Mahasaya, emphasizing the potential power of Kriya Yoga, said that a person with much liberating karma from past life spiritual endeavors who gives 3 years to deep practice of Kriya Yoga according to the Guru's instructions may achieve not only God communion, but may become forever united to him. Failing in that, a devotee with considerable past liberating karma, by deep practice of Kriya Yoga under a guru, may in 6 years attain complete liberation. Others, with some liberating karma, can find liberation in 12 years by the deep practice of Kriya Yoga and by the Guru's guidance and blessings. And all deep seekers, even those with very little past liberating karma, may find liberation in a period of 24 years. Others with no liberating karma, but possessing now supreme determination and the guidance of a true Kriya Yoga guru, by deep and steady practice of Kriya Yoga may be able to find realization in 48 years. If a devotee is unable to find realization in 48 years, he will certainly be attracted in his next life to Kriya Yoga and will practice it deeply until final salvation is achieved. In addition to what Yogananda has said to us on this subject, in a lecture titled Fulfilling the Highest Purpose of Life, which is a wonderful lecture given by Brother Vishwananda, Brother gives us some additional insights on this. He says that we would never have even been attracted to the Self-Realization Fellowship path and to Paramahansa Yogananda as our guru unless we had already lived many lifetimes, most likely at least thousands of lifetimes, and that if we are now on the SRF path, we are getting very close to becoming liberated. He then further states that for some of us, this may very well be our last lifetime. So when I heard Brother Vishwananda say this, and I've listened to him say this again tens of times now, the thought really hit me that I may really have the opportunity to become liberated at the end of this lifetime. This has now set in motion a new way of thinking and a new level of determination within me to do all that I can to maximize the probability of now becoming liberated. The metaphor that I now have for this is that of an athlete who understands that he has the chance to compete at the Olympics, but he's going to need to rise up and train hard for an extended period of time in order to make it happen. So for me personally now, what I'm going to be focused on between now and the end of my life is that opportunity, metaphorically speaking, to win the gold medal. Throughout much of my life, particularly in recent years with all that's been going on, I've been focused on trying to make it through these challenging times. But now I have a new, much more exciting purpose to focus on. I now see the end of my life, years down the road in the future, as the opportunity to win the gold medal. But I must be willing to put in the work both now and in each and every day in the future in order to make this happen. And that gold medal, metaphorically speaking, is achieving my liberation and my oneness with God for all eternity. Now I know that I still have a long way to go, and every day I continually face distractions trying to take me off the path. But I've made good progress over the years, and now I'm determined to make even better progress in moving forward. Brother Chidananda, the current president of Self-Realization Fellowship, in another lecture titled Achieving Your Material and Spiritual Goals, quoted Yogananda in saying that if a devotee practices sadhana with the firm resolve that he will be free in this lifetime, can there be another world for him after death? No. Merging in spirit, there is no death for him. He becomes the ever-living, everywhere present. Whoa, that really opened my eyes too. So what Brother Chidananda said here in quoting Yogananda, along with what both Yogananda and Brother Vishwananda have said that I mentioned earlier on the subject of liberation, have now fueled me with a new determination and resolve around focusing on this and making it happen. So I will now move forward and give my best, doing all that I can to overcome the obstacles that I'm facing along the way, while moving closer and closer towards liberation. Whether I achieve liberation at the end of this lifetime or not, at the very minimum, I now know that I will either become liberated or I will have prepared myself to live a wonderful lifetime the next time, having created auspicious circumstances for myself in that lifetime where I will then finally become liberated.